So you bought a 24 or above Street Glide or Road Glide, and you sat there and said, man, I thought the suspension was better than this. I read somewhere it was supposed to be good, and it isn't. Well, stick around, maybe we can help. Hi guys, welcome back. Salty Flyer back in the garage where we belong. And we're gonna go over some suspension things that you might wanna consider for your 24 and up Street Glide or Road Glide. So remember, from the neck bearing back, they're the same bike. So when you get your bike, you probably don't necessarily read the manual. I mean, I just wanted to get on it and ride. And with the newer bikes, the dealers didn't always have the best dealer turnover. My guys kind of were a little clueless on some of the infotainment stuff, and they didn't really talk to me about the suspension. Anyway, if you haven't read the manual and you're like, man, this suspension sucks, but I don't have enough money to get a new one yet, Uncle Salty might be able to help you out. Today we're gonna teach you how to adjust the suspension on your Street Glide or Road Glide. It is an adjustable suspension from the factory, and no, you don't have to do any of those silly bicycle pumps or any of that silliness. You can do it by hand with the tools you have. So today, the only tools you're gonna need to do this job are the spanner wrench that came with the bike for adjusting the suspension. You'll know what it is. And if they didn't give it to you, go back to your dealer and get it because they owe you that. A tape measure or ruler, a kitchen scale, and a little bit of honesty. So anyway, let's get cracking. Okay, so step one, by the way, this is that spanner wrench I was talking about. That will become useful in a moment. So step one is remove your saddlebags. I already got the left bag off. We'll get the right bag off. And remember, just a couple of things. Pro tip from your friend Salty, have a towel or carpet or something. Be careful with these things just because you don't want to drop them and they're expensive. Also, once you get them kind of off, close the lid. That way they don't fall over when you put them down because they're kind of wonky when the lids are open. And we'll expose the goodness. Okay, so before we get started, a couple of things. So the right shock absorber, so facing forward on the bike, the right-hand side, that is your main adjustment. You're only adjusting for preload, so if there's suspension nerds out there that you're worried about, oh, rebound and dampening, everything else, they're not that adjustable. They're the stock Harley shock absorbers. So what you do is you set up the right shock absorber for your 90% solution, how you ride day to day. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the left one is your kind of quick adjust if you need to add preload for additional weight you may be carrying that it's not normal. So I'll link to up here, you should see a image of what the page in your owner's manual looks like. And that's important. It's a chart that tells you how to adjust your shock absorber based on weight. So you got to ask yourself two questions. Question one, how do I ride 95% of the time? Do I ride solo or do I ride two up? It's okay if it's either, but you gotta know which one you're gonna do because you're probably gonna set this one up to the one that you do 90% of the time. So in my case, I ride solo 90% of the time. There's a line for 0 passenger weight, and then you go with that. Now, the other question you gotta ask yourself, and this is where you gotta be honest, is what do you weigh? And I don't mean what'd you wrestle at in high school, I mean what do you weigh right now in running order with all your kit on as you sit on the bike. You can lie to yourself, but much like going to the doctor, if you don't lie to yourself, you're gonna get a better ride out of it if you're honest. So maybe jump on that bathroom scale, I'll wait, and then come back. Now if you do ride two up, there's a chart for you, and then on the chart you'll see an intersecting line for the weight of your passenger. So you gotta go ask your old lady what she weighs. Vaya con Dios, amigo. Anyway, so let's get set up and I'll show you how to do that adjustment now that we have those numbers in our head. Okay, so now we'll get in here and take a look, see at what we're dealing with. So you'll see on the top here is a lock ring, and then this is the adjuster. And I've already this has been sort of adjusted to me anyway, but we'll redo the adjustment. So step one is to take your spanner wrench, this fella right here, and go counterclockwise, so lefty-loosey, break that guy loose, and then run him all the way up. All right, so he's in the all the way up position. Then step two is going to be go to that chart and determine how much you weigh, and then it's going to tell you how much deflection that you have on, how much deflection, how much space you have to adjust this down to get your suspension dialed in the way you want it to. So let's go to our chart real quick and see what we're dealing with. Okay, So we looked on the chart, went down, looked at my weight, went really far down the chart, sad face, and found out that the distance is going to be 12 millimeters. Yes, America's Motorcycle did this in metric. I'm sorry. So right here, you're gonna see, if you get on tight here, the measurement is going to be between, it says 12 millimeters between the top edge of this adjuster ring and the bottom of the lock ring. That's what you're gonna set your spacing off of. So I have to figure out what 12 millimeters is in, American units, or I guess I could just go get a, millimeter ruler. I'm sure my kid has one. Anyway, let's do that math, and we'll get right back.
2 hours later.
Okay, so now we've done the math and come up with approximately a ½ an inch of space. So I've already got this one kind of opened up a little bit. So you'll start cranking clockwise to get it to start increasing in distance. So I'm going to take my ruler, my tape measure here, and take a look-see, and I'm using it from the 1 inch mark just to make it easier to read. So I need to go just a little bit more to get it to ½ an inch. So if you've never used a spanner wrench like this, they're kind of fiddly. Just be careful around your fender. You sort of fit that tooth into the notch, and then if you're going clockwise, you want to put the tooth on the right. If you're going counterclockwise, you want to put the tooth on the left, and then the back part will grip onto this ring, and then just be careful, give it a bit of a turn, stop, reset again, give it a bit of a turn, and go from there like that. And you'll see that distance, you'll feel the spring compressing. It'll start making some springy noises, and it'll that distance will start getting bigger. So you'll keep checking that until you get to the distance you want. I think I need about one more turn on this, and that should be good. There. So the other thing you need to realize is whether or not you rock a tour pack. That looks about right. So if you rock a tour pack, then you're going to see that the book's going to tell you to add 0.6 of an inch. Just not only because of the weight, but because of the weight is sitting directly on top of the shocks, or actually even aft of the shocks. So that's why it's going to want you to do that. So we have that set up the way we want it. So now the next step is to dial it in, is to take this lock ring here and snug him down. You do not have to really get this guy crazy tight because you'll damage the threads on the shocks. So there. So now we're pretty much set on our main adjustment. All right, so now we're over here on the bike's left side, and we'll talk about the kind of hydraulic adjuster, they call it, which is using a small hydraulic knob on the side of the bike to add preload in case of cargo. So understand this, the shocks aren't connected. You set one up, but because they're so close together and they're attached to the same angle, or the same axle, excuse me, physics is happening and it's essentially acting as a monoshock for all intents and purposes. But you can add preload to the left side. So you can never take preload away. So that on the other side there, on the right-hand side, should be your minimum preload. But if you go to your manual here, we'll hopefully bring up on this side, we should bring up a chart here of your cargo adjustment. And you can add preload for up to 100 pounds of cargo. So what I typically do is I'll add that for, like, if I take my wife on rides with me, because she doesn't ride with me a whole hell of a lot. But when she does, I can just crank this on. So you still have to take a saddlebag off, but at least you don't have to bust out a spanner. So if you go and say, hey, you get out there and you put, you're going camping, and you're putting a bunch of gear on the bike and you want to add some preload, have a comfortable ride, fine. However, what I would say is if you know you're going to put a lot of weight on it, it's going to be a long trip, you might just want to recalculate and adjust on the other side. But let's show you real quick how to do that. All right, so if we get in here, you'll see kind of deep down here in the bowels, you'll see there's this guy right here. That is your adjuster. So I've got it backed out to 0 turns, meaning I'm not adding any preload. And then should I desire to add some preload, what I would do is just crank on this guy clockwise until this guy starts ticking up. So for 10 pounds, say, of cargo, you'd want to click it until basically it's on the second tab there. And then all the way up to 20, the max setting, which would add 100 pounds of cargo. So at that point, you're getting close to maxing it out, and that's typically meaning you're going to put a whole other passenger on there. So in that case, you may as well just adjust it and be done with it there. So any questions on that? I think we're done. We dialed it in. Super simple, but I think people don't know what to do. So let's get the bike button back up and get the saddlebags back on. Okay, so that was pretty easy. That was another little maintenance job we had there. Couple of pro tips. I think if you're gonna go on a long, say you ride solo and you're set for solo and you're gonna ride 2 up for 1,000, 2,000 mile long trip, just go ahead and take the saddlebags off, set your suspension for 2 people, you'll be glad you did. If you have problems, remember this is setting the preload only on the rear shocks only. So if you don't like how the forks are doing, the front suspension, like you hit the brakes and it dives, then not much this is gonna do to help you. Then you might be a candidate for replacing your shocks. But it will ride better, especially if you're a guy like me whose weight starts with a 2 and you haven't adjusted them. You're gonna notice a world of difference in that adjustment from having them set to zero preload to setting the preload up for your weight there. So give it a shot, see if you like it. If not, you can start putting the pennies away to get some of those really sweet suspension systems. I'll probably end up changing at least my rear shocks out at some point. But right now, I'll be honest, I haven't had too much of a complaint with it. So that's been kind of fun. Just little maintenance tips from your friend here. Channel news, some stuff coming up. I got some cool camera kit for from a birthday recently. Yeah, I turned 27 years old. Yeah, if you believe that, I got a bridge I want to sell you. But I'm gonna start messing around with some of that stuff. I've got the ability to maybe do some ride videos, maybe some travel log stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, let me know in the comments. I'm gonna do it anyway, but I mean, if you're interested or not, let me know. If you stuck around this long, thanks for playing. Happy to have you here. So glad you joined us. The channel doesn't work without you guys. If you could hit that thumbs up, we'd really appreciate it. If you could hit the subscription button, we're kind of growing along very slowly, but we're growing. That would be much appreciated by me. Thanks for coming out. Until next time, stay on 2 wheels, keep it safe, keep it real, and Salty Flyer. We'll see you next time. Peace.